Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm happy to be with you today. I have another thought to share, one that's pretty simple, but I guess it gets a little complicated in life. It comes from Psalm 120, and I'd like to read it to you. It's just the first verse. I took my troubles to the Lord. I cried out to him, and he answered my prayer. Well, for those of us who've walked with God in our lives, we know about taking our troubles to God. For some of you, maybe that's a new thought. And if it is a new thought, well, good. Hang on to it. See if we can't make it a little better. But it starts out and it says, I took my troubles to the Lord. The word there is plural, meaning there's more than one. And in fact, at least in my experience, and I think in everyone else I've talked to, you never run out of troubles. Every new day seems to come with something or another that doesn't work so well. I had one just recently. I know it's kind of trivial, but I happened to look down and my inspection date was almost out. And I had to quickly try to find a place that could work me in. And I felt really badly about asking because our local garage was really busy, but I just didn't notice. I messed up. And so I said, God, you got to help me figure this out because in another day or two it runs out and I got to get my wife to the doctor. So what can I say? The other car is also in the shop, so here we are. But troubles never seem to end. And they can be big ones or little ones. For some people, what they consider to be a small problem is huge to someone else. I saw some time ago a little cartoon. And it was a picture about a guy climbing up onto the communion table or the altar. Some people call it the altar. And the caption said, the problem with giving ourselves to the altar of God is we keep climbing off. In other words, we give ourselves to God and then we take ourselves back. So it says here, I took my troubles to the Lord. Well, how do you do that? Well, it's really not that complicated. You just talk to him. And I know many people don't know how to talk to God. They think you have to use some special words or be in a special place or have some special posture of your body. But the truth is, all you got to do is talk. God hears. And you don't even have to talk out loud. You can talk to with your inner voice and God still hears you. So the psalmist is saying here, I called out to God. I gave him my troubles. I explained them to him. Now, I'm always troubled by this concept here because if God already knows everything, why do I have to talk to him? And I'm not sure I have, quote, the right answer. But I do have one answer. God wants us to talk to him because he wants us to relate to him. He wants to be in fellowship with us. I mean, that's what the whole thing in the original garden was about. Walking with God in the cool of the day, it says. And then, of course, sin came in, and you probably know that story. Everything went downhill from there. But God still wants us to have a relationship with. He wants us to invite him into our lives. Now, he's God. He could just make that happen, but he chose not to. He gave us the choice to invite him in or not. And so it says here, I took my troubles to the Lord. I called on him. I gave him the problems that I'm struggling with, or problems of somebody else on their behalf. And then what happens? Well, the psalm says, and he answered my prayer. And it appears from the wording of the psalm that as soon as the psalmist gave his concerns to God, God solved them. Now, it doesn't say that, but it kind of looks that way. And that's what gets you and me into a lot of trouble. Because we think, especially if we really know God, we think that we deserve an immediate answer. And I've heard people say, well, if there is a God, then he will do such and such. Well, there is a God. Whether he does it or not, I don't know. In our world, we want answers. And we want answers pretty quickly. We're not willing to wait. But in God's realm of being, it's not waiting. It's just getting the answer. And if it takes months and years from our perspective, well, God's perspective is eternity. What's a few months or a couple of years or more than that? The point being is, when we give our struggles to God, the surety is he will answer them. Now, how he answers them, when he answers them, that's a whole different issue. And that is totally up to him. I can't do a thing about it. All I can do, excuse me, is pray and share my concerns with God. That's my responsibility. That's my job. It's God's job to do something about it. And it says here that he will. All I really have to do is be patient and trust him. Well, gosh, if I can't trust him, what can I trust? I know my abilities are limited. I know that the world's abilities to solve this or that are limited. So the only unlimited source, really, an option, is God. So the psalmist is saying, matter of factly, not questioning it, not somehow asking if it's possible. He simply says, I took my troubles to the Lord. I called out to him, and he answered me. That should be the process for you and for me. Like I said, it's real simple, just kind of complicated. Well, you think about that. Maybe try it out in your life. If you don't get the answer you want, maybe you want the wrong answer. Don't be so quick to jump on God and say, hey, what are you doing? You're not paying attention here. Might be that God's paying more attention than you are. What do you think about it? Hope you have a fantastic day. If you have a need or concern, let us know. We'll do whatever we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back tomorrow with another thought.